Om Shuklam Baradaram Vishnum Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasannavadanam Dhyayet Sarva Vignopashantaye Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryankaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shailendradavatirni Nijajale Majjajalotarini Parahara Viharini Bhavabhayashrini Samutsarini Sheshaheranukariणी Harashiro Valli Dalakarini Kashi Pranta Viharini Vijayate Ganga Manoharini. Okay, so this is the second talk we saw that we were seeing, looking at Gangaastotram, and we saw about, I believe, 5 verses last week. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to recite those first 5 verses so we get the context and the background, and then I will continue. Here's my glasses. Devi Sureshwari Bhagavati Gange Tribhuvana Tarini Tarala Tarange Shankara Mauli Viharini Vimale Mama Matirastam Tava Pada Kamale Bhagirathi Sukhadayini Mata Tava Jala Mahima Nigame Kyataha Naham Jane Tava Mahimanam Pahi Kripamai Mam Ajnanam Haripada Padyatarangiणी Gange Himavidumukta Dhavalatarange Duri Kuru Mama Dushkriti Bharam Kuru Kripaya Bhavasagar Param Tava Jalamamalam Yena Nipitam Paramapadam Kalutena Grihitam Matar Gange Tvayo Bhaktaha Kilatam Drashtum Nayamashaktaha Patito Dharini Janavi Gange Khandita Girivara Mandita Bhange Bhishma Janani He Munivara Kanye Patita Nivarini Tribhuvana Dhanye. So we saw up to that point. We'll continue with the next verse. Kalpalatamiva phaladam loke pranamati yasvam napatati shoke paravara viharini gange vimukhayuvati kritatarala pange. Kalpalatam phaladam loke pranamati yaha tvam napatati shoke Paravara Viharini Gange Vimukhayuvati Krita Tarala Pange. So, addressing, this is, as you know, a prayer to Sri Ganga Devi, manifest as Ganga, that we all know very well. So, goes on to describe my prayers unto you and also the nature of what Ganga is, what is Ganga Swarupam. So he says, Kalpalatam iva phaladam. So she is like Kalpalata. We all know what is. So there is like Kalpa Vriksham. In Indraloka, there is supposed to be this tree, and tree called Kalpa Vriksha. And this is a tree which is a divine tree, heavenly tree that fulfills all one's desires. Kalpala. So this is Lata is a creeper. So this is like a creeper, like Kalpalata, like the Kalpalata, Kalpavriksham, that fulfills the desires of the devotees. So Gangaji, this is what she does. Because once pray, there's a lot of implied here. So this is when I pray to the Lord. So Bhagavan fulfills the desires. So of course, one might have a lot of questions about this. There are so many things we desire. And most of them, sometimes some of them manifest, I get, it's fulfilled. And most of them don't get fulfilled. So what does it mean when it says that when I pray to Devi, pray to God, that they fulfill all my desires? Do they really? So in order for me to fulfill any desire, we know there are these threefold factors are involved. There is prayatnam, kalam, and daivam. Prayer does not yield fruit in itself in terms of fulfillment of a desire, just the prayer part of it. Okay. If I sit quietly in a corner and then just pray. So things may happen, things may not happen. There is other things involved too, because so in fulfillment of desire, there is action involved, there is karma involved. So there are three factors that our tradition talks about. One is prayatnam, effort. Then one has to put in some effort commensurate with what is desired. The effort has to be right, it has to be adequate, it has to be timely. There are so many factors involved just in the effort itself. So definitely that is a given. So one has to make an effort. And then, of course, one has to give it time. Just because I make an effort, so I don't get what I want. It takes its own time, to fructify. That's the way nature is. Everything is bound by time. So there is time involved. And then with all, in spite of my effort and the time given, then sometimes results don't come, sometimes results come. So there is this unknown factor, an unknown factor which we call or we understand as Daivam. Daivam essentially has to do with the divine laws. Okay. There are laws operating. The results of actions are built into the actions that are performed. But the laws of it, all of which we don't understand, but they are not created by me. They are already existent and they are uniform. These are uniform laws, and they are the laws of Bhagavan. That appreciation is called as Daivam. So any prayer includes this Daivam aspect. So according to a Shastram, when I make the adequate proper effort, prayatnam, I give it enough adequate time. And then the Daiva, how do I address the Daivam? Daivam is addressed in the form of recognition of what is behind and also prayer. So because sometimes the results come, sometimes results don't come, as though there are some obstacles to getting what I want. And so those obstacles are mitigated by performing another prayer, another action in the form of prayers. And so which helps in mitigating so those obstacles that are there. Sometimes that action may be enough, sometimes that action may not be enough. But it addresses that third aspect, the Daivam aspect. So, really speaking, Bhagavan, so ultimately, it is what I desire that is fulfilled, what I desire. So, that's why we see in Purana, so many stories we see that Bhagavan gives, a person comes, Asuras come, they do prayers and so on, and they ask for big, big things. And so, like Ravana did, then all this this big asuras who didn't want to be, who wanted to live forever. And then they ask for these boons. And then generally Ishvara was pleased and Bhagavan gives the boon. And then afterwards that man creates problems and havoc all over the place. Then one might ask, why did Bhagavan give him the boon? He got the boon because he asked for it. So he made all the requisite things that are required. Prayatnam, Kalam, Daivam, everything was addressed. The Bhagavan gives the results. Okay. So what is important here to know is that one needs to know what to ask. It's not just having a desire, fulfilling a desire. Bhagavan always fulfills one's desires if all the factors are accounted for. But more important than that is knowing what to ask for. And that requires knowledge of dharma, adharma, knowledge of purusharthas, what is the ultimate goal of life, and what am I ultimately seeking. So he says she is like Kalpalata. She gives what is asked. And the divine always does that. But so one has to always ask for the best. You don't ask for things which are transient and temporary and passing, because that never leads to a sense of fulfillment. So eventually, so one's desires are fulfilled, but then it is important to know what one should ask for in life. One asks for that's why Shastram talks about ultimate Purushartha. So which is defined in terms of what we call as moksha. So moksha, there are a lot of Purusharthas. So artha, kama, dharma also is a Purushartha. Growth is a Purushartha. Heaven going is a Purushartha. But it's the ultimate Purushartha is always in the form of, so that which is freedom from all these transient fulfillment of desires, which is called as Uttama. So Parama Purushartha is always moksha, according to the vision of the Vedas. So it's important to know that. So kalpalatam eva phaladam loke yaha pranamati. So na tvam pranamati na patati. Shoke na patati. So the one who surrenders to you, the one who prays to you, does not fall again into the trap of shoka. Shoka is grief. Sorrow, grief, despondency, that is what is called as shoka. It is centered in the mind. So there is a certain reactive process. In the mind always responds. Some of the responses are natural. Pain, for example. Pain is a natural thing. Physical pain is natural. Like that, some emotional, immediate response, pain is also natural. But then we add to it, we dwell upon it, and then it tends to snowball sometimes. And that is all the function of our thinking and our memories and our past and our experiences, all that. So we add to all of that. That is what is called as grief. Or so despondency, when it becomes very deep and difficult to get over. So Bhagavan, so prayer is the one praying to you, the one who surrenders to you, does not fall into that trap of severe despondency. And then there is a metaphor. Paravara viharini gange vimukhayuvati krita tarala pange. So it just describes the nature of Ganga. Oh, she is Vimukhayuvati. Vimukhayuvati means the one who marches to one's own tunes. So Gangaji is like that. So she is not, sometimes she is smooth, sometimes she is calm, sometimes she is violent. So she goes this way and that way. And so especially coming down the mountains, so all over the place. And so Paravara, going from one bank between the two banks. So this side, that the river itself moves. Sometimes you see this. So it will take a turn and suddenly the whole thing shifts a little bit. So depending on various factors. And so this kind of a The one she's likened to a to a to a somebody who is like a young maiden. so so she's like a young maiden who skips along here and there, carefree, in a carefree manner, glancing to the left side and the right side and looking all over. And so this is how Ganga moves as she comes down the mountains, especially. So number 7. Tava chain mata srotasnataha punarapi jathare sopi na jataha naraka nivarini janavi gange kalusha vinashini mahimo tunge. Tava chain mataha srotasnataha. So for the one who takes a dip, snanam, in your Ganga, in your waters, in his snanam, bathing. We we don't take a bath in Ganga, really speaking. Ganga is not for bathing. You should see this when you go to the Himalayas and the people's attitudes. So generally, they won't think you don't take a bath like you take a shower, go there and apply soap and this thing, that thing. It's not, or to do your laundry there. Those kinds of things are considered to be disrespectful. So Ganga is mother, so sacred river. And so the bathing in Ganga is taking a dip. So therefore they say you take a dip in Ganga. So three times you have to dip yourself in the waters of Ganga. Not easy, very, very cold. And then the whole thing, that head has to go totally, the whole body has to go totally under the water. Sometimes she's very rapid also, spring. And though when you do that, it's just a mind-changing experience to do that kind of a thing, taking the dip in Ganga. So he says, the one who takes this kind of a dip in your waters, he says, Punaha api jathare na jataha. Such a person is not again born. Jathare jataha means, born again in the womb. Punarapi jananam, puranapi maranam, punarapi janani jathare shayanam. Iha samsare bahudustare kripaya pare pahi murare. In Bhajagovindam, there is a verse. It says, Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam. So this is the lot of a jiva. Again there is birth, and then again there is maranam. Again there is death, then followed by birth, followed by death, followed by birth, death. In fact, death is nothing but birth. Birth is nothing but death of a previous state. Death is birth of a new state of being. He says, Janani Jathare Shayanam. Jathare means, so every time birth takes place in the womb, I have to lay there for another months now. You have to grow and then come to the world and suffer. So here, Nava, 9 days, 9 months for a human being. 9 months for a human being. 9 days for a preta, And then after 10th day and all, they do karmas, but I won't get into that here. So anyway, iha samsare bahudustare. This is what is called as samsara. This life of change, that life that is time bound, then birth and death, this kind of a thing. He says, so this is dustare, difficult to cross over, very difficult to cross over. It's been going on since beginningless time. Kripaya pare pahi murare. Oh Bhagavan, so Murari, oh Narayana, please help me cross over this. So he says she is Vishnupadi, She is also someone who has come from the feet of Sri Vishnu, of Narayana, Mother Ganga. And having done that, she has the capacity to remove the Papa Karmas and give knowledge As Jnana Ganga, she gives knowledge. So both of these things are there. And so Jatare, the one who surrenders to you, that dip in Ganga is symbolic of surrender. You have to surrender. The whole body goes down into the water, and that is surrender. And so for a minute, for a second, you feel like you're going to be swept away. You get that feeling because of the current, but then you come out and you feel like you're reborn. So that kind of a thing is there. And so he says the one who surrenders to you in that manner. And so for such a person, there is no ultimately he gets over the cycle of samsara chakram. Okay. So in a twofold way, one is by removing of papam, and the other one is by virtue of this jnanam. She symbolizes Veda, the Veda jnanam, knowledge that is there in the Veda about one's own swarupam. That knowledge gives atma jnanam. That is the one that helps one transcend this life of change, transcend samsara, and then rise above all of that. Naraka Nivarini Jahnavi Gange, Kalusha Vinashini. So Mahimotunge, the one whose Mahima, the one whose glory is beyond wonder, and we cannot even recognize it. And so that is who she is. And the one who says Kalusha Vinashini, she removes all the kalushas. Kalushas are the obstacles, the impurities. What are called as impure? What is impure? Really, what is impure? Dirty, impurity, all these words we use. Something bad, something we don't want. Impurity is something which you don't want. So you want everything to be pure. Gold you want to buy, it has to be pure. Silver has to be pure. Every mind has to be pure. Everything has to be pure. So what pure? What is pure? Then everything is natural also, they say, right? So even the impurity is natural, organic. So there is impurity is also organic. It is natural. You didn't manufacture it yourself. No. Anything that is extraneous, undesirable, unwanted, that doesn't belong. So in where it should not belong, those things are all called as impure. So that create problems. And so all these have to be removed, and which is true for the body, the mind, the intellect. So the intellect, there is a body impurity is there, which we remove by cleaning. There is the impurities of the mind, that this mind is certain tendencies, emotions, and reactions, then that become interference, obstacles to my growth, to my maturity. And then there is at the level of thinking, cognition also. What is the impurity there in my thinking? Thinking is thinking. What's impure? No, bad thoughts. No, we don't think of good, bad like that. Impurity is anything that's an obstacle to my well-being, to my happiness, to my growth. And in thinking, what happens? Cognitive. It is ignorance, is the biggest one. So avidya is the biggest impurity. And she helps through jnanam by removing that. And thus, he says, kalushas, all these different kalushas at different level is viharini, vinashini, removes, she destroys. Kalusha, ultimate kalusham is ajnanam, and that is completely destroyed. Not just removed for it to come back, but destroyed once and forever. And not only that, when she removes, mitigates my papa karmas, then what happens? The result, punyam is there that takes me to heaven. So naraka nivarini. So she also frees me from the sufferings of naraka. Naraka is experiencing pain and suffering. So Gange, Jannavi we have seen. So Jannavi, another name for Mother Ganga. So because of her connection with Jannu Rishi, we saw that. So Bhagirath was coming down Gangaji is following him. So, he's escorting her to the Kapila's ashram. And then what happens? Suddenly he turns behind and he's not seeing. She's gone. And so that is happened. They happen to be near Jannu ashram. And then he was disturbed. And then so he, again, Bhagiratha prays to him, implores him, and then she's born again. So manifest again. So by him, by his tapas and so on. So then she is also called as Jahnavi. It's another name for Ganga. Number 8. Punarasadange punyatarange jaya jaya Jahnavi karuna pange Indra mukutamani rajita charane sukhade shubhade bhritya sharanye. Indra mukuta mani rajita charane. The one whose feet, charanam, so feet are adorned by jewels. Okay. Jewels like the jewels of, so Indra mukuta. Mukutam is the crown of Indra. So in Indra Devata, he's the king of all the devas. Okay. In Swargaloka. He's the king of Swargaloka. And so he has a crown. It has to be very special crown. It is described also. So in iconography, in the murtis that are there of different things that we see in the temple, all the devas. So they all, face wise, they all look the same. All gods look the same. Difficult to tell who we are looking at. Sometimes, many times we go to India, you go to so many temples. Suppose you go on a pilgrimage and there's a main temple. On the way, you go to so many small temples. And then if you do this fast, 1, 2, 3, 4, like that, and many times you don't know which temple you're going into. And then you go and don't even know who the deity is. They don't put like Bhagwan doesn't have a name here, tag, name tag. You're going to the temple, many small temples. And so, but then we look at it and then we are able to, sometimes you can't identify. If there's too much alankaram, can't identify who it is. But if it is, if you can see the form, and then there are different symbols are there associated with different deities. And so one is able to identify. We know who we are offering our prayers to. So Indra also has certain characteristics to identify, can be identified by the Murti. And one of them is his Indra Mukutam. It has a very unique and a different shape and pattern to it, but it's full of all kinds of gems and all are there. And so he says, so your feet are adorned by all these jewels, which are like the beautiful, like the Indra Mukutam. And then punaha asadange punyatarange. So you are the one who karuna, because of your karuna, because of your compassion, what happens? You purify your glance, your mere glance purifies the impurities. Asadangas are the impurities. The impurities of the limb, of the body, of the mind, of the everything. These are all limbs, angas. Mind is also an anga. So all the impurities that are there, your mere glance is enough to purify all of them. You who are adorned in this way, Sukha De, you're the one who gives happiness. You're the one who gives happiness by mitigating sorrows, and also just the joy of your devotion to you gives so much happiness. He says, you are Sukha De. And Shubha De also gives Shubham, gives auspiciousness. Anything comes from Bhagavan is Shubham. We have to learn to see that, whether it may be desirable to us or not desirable to us at a given moment, It may be welcome or unwelcome. It may be what we ask, it may not be what we ask. So it may be something which I don't understand, But then really speaking, where the laws are concerned, where the divine is concerned, it is everything is just oriented towards one's own growth, one's own journey, the journey as a jiva for one's well-being. Bhagavan doesn't, we do not visualize Bhagavan as somebody who sits there, so giving out punishments and all that. It's nothing like a judge. It is all, whatever happens is something which is really speaking for one's own good when it comes to the divine laws. So he says Shubhadem is the one who gives, always bestows, gives Shubham. So Sharanye, Ritya Sharanye, to the devotee who seeks, to the devotee who seeks refuge in you. He's the one who feels it, feels that, sees it, recognizes it. Bhagwan gives the same thing to others also who don't seek refuge in Bhagwan, but they don't recognize it. It's a little bit more difficult. This process makes it much more easier for a jiva. Rogam shokam tapam papam harame bhagavati kumati kalapam Tribhuvanasare vasudhahare tvamasi gatir mama khalu samsare. Rogam shokam tapam papam harame bhagavati kumati kalapam. Okay, so Tribhuvanasare vasudhahare. So the one who is Tribhuvanasaraha, the essence of everything, the very essence of everything that is there, which is Parameshwara, Parameshwari, really speaking. You are none other than the infinite goddess. So he said Vasudha Hare, the one who's the haram. So haram is necklace. For whom? For Vasudha. Vasudha Prithvi, for Prithvi. For us, that's why for us it is Mata. So Dharti Mata, you see Dharti Mata, the mother, and then Ganga. If you look at Bharat Varsha, then what do you see there? So you see Bharat Mata. Bharat Mata is there, and then there is Ganga is there flowing, and then Ganga is exactly, she is the necklace. She is the necklace on the form of Bharat Mata. Okay, Bharat Mata is Prithvi, part of Prithvi. So that is where we are. That is where we look from at that angle. So anyway, so you are the garland of Prithvi Devi, of Mother Earth, and says, please, who remove, may all this hara means please take away. Take Hari. Hari is the one who removes, Harati Papani. She also, she's Hara, she removes all the papas of my previous karma. So Hare, please remove all these papas, he says. And that give me. It is said that, so it is the papa karmas, papam accumulated. Papam is adrishtam. Okay. There is no action itself is papam or punyam. Okay. Papam or punyam is the result. So karmas that lead to papam is what we call papa karmas. So really speaking, it is the karmas that ultimately give a unseen result called as papam or punyam. And then that papam punyam, it translates into some kind of a manifestation. And papam doesn't manifest as papam. Papam manifests as roga, as shokam, as pain, as illness. All those things are there. This is all due to papam karma. Then punyam manifests in other ways. So occasions that give me joy and so on. So here he says rogam. Rogam is illness. So illnesses, diseases we look upon as a result of Purva karmas, purva papam. That doesn't mean that we should not do anything or take treatment. We're supposed to do something about it to minimize it. But then, this comes from there, That's why it's all part of the DNA. So DNA means it is previously, all connected to the past. So shokam is sorrow. Tapam, other if afflictions, all kinds of misery. Tapatrayam, three types of tapam are there. So afflictions that are there, adhyatmikam, within myself, in my mind, adhyatmikam, adibhautikam, all these afflictions, pains, disturbances, discomforts that come from around me. So from the environment, from the people, from all kinds of things. And then adi daivikam. Daivikam is, so due to the laws of nature, laws of Bhagavan, also I end up getting, so pain and afflictions, these are all called as tapam. Papam is, of course, we know what papam is. Kumati kalapam, kumatihi. Kumatihi is wrongful thinking, thinking that immature, that due to wrong understanding and wrong priorities and all, so cognitively and all these kinds of things are all these kalapas, Kumatihi. Kumatihi is wrong mati, wrong thinking. So please free me from all of this, he says. Number 10. Alakanande Paramanande Kuru Karunamayi Kataravandye Tavatata Nikate Yasya Nivasaha Khalu Vaikunte Tasya Nivasaha. Alakanande Paramanande Kuru Karunam Mai Kataravandye. Kataravandye, the one who is, so Vandanam, the one who is worshipped by who? Who? People who are in distress. We think of Bhagavan when we are in distress. Not just supposed to be that way. Bhagavan has to be part of one's life. But in any case, at least some people think of the Lord in distress, called Artaha. This is one type of bhakta described in Bhagavad Gita. So, in any case, he says, so the one who people come to you when they are in distress, they think about you in distress, or otherwise also, he says, Mai Karunam Kuru, please have compassion towards me. Please bless me, And who's in the form of, so Param, who's Alakananda? Alakanande, hey Alakanande. These are all vocative cases. I'm addressing, hey Gange, oh Ganga, like that. So, hey Alakanande. Alakanande is, so this is a tributary of Ganges. So if you know when Ganga, Mother Ganga came down to earth, and then she first lands on Lord Shiva's head, and then from there he breaks the fall. Then she flows down in different streams, So in different streams. So 7 streams she flows down. And then 2 of these, one is Bhagirathi, one is Alakananda or Alaknanda. And so we have these 4 great dhams, pilgrim sites that we go for pilgrimage. So Badrinath, Kedarnath, and then Gangotri and Yamunotri. Okay. And so these are all these rivers come from the glaciers. So there is a series of glaciers that are interconnected. The easternmost is Badrinath, the glacier above Badrinath. And so that from there we have this Alakananda. And so she passes through by Badrinath and then comes down, and then she is joined by many tributaries are there along the way, smaller ones and larger ones. And there is one of them is called as this, what is that? Bhagirathi and so I'm blocking Mandakini. Okay. So Mandakini comes from Kedarnath. So the glacier above Kedarnath is Mandakini. She comes and joins Alakananda, in Rudraprayag. And then they come down, the Alakananda comes down further, and then she is joined by this Bhagirathi. So Bhagirathi also came from Gangotri glacier. And so the Gangotri glacier comes down, and this Alakananda joins Bhagirathi, and then comes down further. And then anyway, so it comes down, and then this joining of Alakananda and Bhagirathi takes place in another place called as Devprayag. And then at that point, it is called as Ganga after that. So, and then comes down further, all the way down, passes through another 4 states, and then in Prayag, this Yamuna that came from Yamunotri, the glacier above that, has come all the way down separately and joins up with Ganga there. So this is how she flows down, then all coming down in different streams. And then many other, many small streams, tributaries, join Ganga along the way. So anyway, so this Alakananda is another important tributary of Ganga, which is part of Ganga originally. So coming from the head of Lord Shiva. Okay. So anyway, so he says, so she's called that way. So she's called Alakananda also. Paramanande, whose Swarupam is Ananda Swarupam. She was non-separate from Parameshwara, from Parameshwari, who is Ananda Swarupini. So, Tavatata nikate yasya nivasaha, khalu vaikunte tasya nivasaha. So he says, the one who has nivasa, the one who lives by you, by your banks, the one who seeks refuge by your banks, the one who comes to you, worships you, and so on, has proximity. He says, for that a person, it is as good as Vaikunta Nivasa, as good as being in Vaikuntham. It's so true. Not everybody who lives on the banks of Ganga feels he's in Vaikuntham. Okay. So there are also a lot of places on the banks of Ganga where people live, If they don't have proximity to Ganga, if they don't have the understanding or the attitude of what this Ganga is about, But for people who do, who understand, Ganga was proximity, it is the proximity to Ganga, Being there physically is symbolic. And Ganga is there. I go to Ganga, or I can have Ganga in me, I can feel that proximity within me. And so, but if I have that bhakti or that sentiment, it is the same as with Ishvara, Parameshwara. So but she has a special significance. So in terms of historically and in terms of our culture. And so many great souls have been are associated with Ganga, So we know the Naranarayana, the earliest in the Treta Yuga. So this Naranarayana did tapas in the forest near in Badrinath, Badri. That's where the name comes from. So they did tapas there. Many people, many sages, Bhagirath, and then Kapila, and then Jannu, all these sages had ashrams, lived there, and even later on, even now. So throughout the history of our culture and tradition, Gangaji has been associated, a place that everybody goes to. Spiritual seekers go there, and they live there, and that culture that is very alive. You can feel it when you go there, So, this is so great souls, our own forefathers. In every family, there is somebody who would have gone to Ganges, Need not always be in the Himalayas. It can be anywhere. Ganga is all over a country, from east to west to east, she flows. And so somebody or the other has gone there. We can just assume that, So we have a very strong connection to Ganga in terms of our heritage, in terms of our culture, in terms of our religion, in terms of our our gods, in terms of our ancestors, in terms of our history and our traditions. So he says, whoever comes to you and gains that proximity to you, or comes and lives by your bank, or even stays there, or goes on a pilgrimage, he says, Khalu Vaikunte. So that person feels that, so he is as well residing in Vaikuntham. That is why it is called that that when she comes down from the mountain, even that place, she's access to the origins of Ganga coming down from Himalayas, which is where she was born. And so that is place is called Haridwar. So Haridwar means a doorway. That is the doorway to the land of Bhagavan. And so Swargadwaram, in fact, if you go to Gangotri, that area is called Haridwar, that's called Swargadwaram. So that is where Pandavas, even Pandavas all walked towards in that direction when they were, at the end of their lives, they go there. Anyway, so this is the importance of proximity to Ganga. Varamiha nire kamatho minaha kimva tire sharatakshinaha athava shvapacho malino dinaha tavanahi dure drupati kulinaha. Varamiha nire kamata. Kamataha is a tortoise. A tortoise, turtle. Minaha is a fish. Then Sharataha is another chameleon. Chameleon is called Sharataha. So he says, or Shwapachaha. Shwapachaha is a person who is, a Chandala is called Shwapachaha. Shwapachaha is the one who doesn't follow any religious tradition, that doesn't follow this ashrama dharma, varnashrama dharma, all those things the person doesn't believe in, just lives a life as he wants to live. Such a person, he says, Tava nahi dure nripati kulina. So the one he says, I would rather be one of these living near you. So, he says, I would rather be than be what? Nripatihi. Nripatihi. The one, Nripatihi is the king. So the one, I would rather be somebody, even if it was a person who had no values or anything, or if I was an animal, I would rather be close to you. Even as a fish, I don't mind. This is a devotee. These are the sentiments of a devotee, which again, since he talked about the proximity in the previous verse, so this is a devotee's feeling that it doesn't really matter. I don't have to be a big sage in order to be living by your bank, but in any form, I live close to you, or on your banks, or in your waters, that I feel myself more blessed than I would if I even was the emperor of the earth, he says. So then, having said so much, then following 2-3 verses are there which talk about the phalam. It's called phalashruti. So most prayers that you will see, we have, so at the end of it, there is always what they call as phalashruti. So phalashruti means it'll say, what is the benefits of this prayer? What do I get out of reciting this prayer, studying this prayer, knowing this prayer, talking about it, and so on? What do I get out of that? So it will list a lot of things. What I get. And so it almost looks like is some kind of a commercial advertising, but it's not like the promises, big promises. That's not the idea here. The idea is that many people seek many different things. Even Sankalpam. There are many people here. I hear these comments. People say this. I don't like to do Sankalpam. Or there in the temple, they do sankalpam, goes on and on and on and on and on. I want this for this, for this, for this, and that I should vahanam, I want well-being, I want wealth, I want. So I pray for wealth and for my children, and children should go to school, and then they should pass, and they should listen to me, and then I should get along with my wife. All kinds of things you keep on asking. I don't like to ask anything to Bhagavan. Then so I don't like this sankalpam, especially temple sankalpam, because it goes on for 5 minutes. I mean, it makes me look greedy. That's not the point here. The point in the temple, the sankalpam is done not for one person. It is done samuhikam, for people. Even when I do prayer there, and that prayer, in a way, we pray as part of the community. So we are praying for the well-being of all also. For oneself, of course, for one's own well-being. I always pray for maturity. I'm not too mature that I cannot pray for maturity, for understanding, for wisdom, and so at least for the well-being of other people. And so many different people are there. There are many situations. They may want many different things. So that all that has to be taken into account in a community-oriented environment. So naturally, the priest, he will say things that will cover everybody. That doesn't mean that every time it is referring to you or referring to an individual. Okay. So we should keep that in mind. So it's important to do that because it is including the whole community, especially in temples. So that's not the right thinking to feel that it is just about, it has to do with greed. If it has to do with greed, then first time I ask for vahanam, then I go buy, get a vahanam. Then second, I need not ask for another vahanam right away. So, but we still do that. So because there it is more general. So in any case, so this is what is called as Phalashruti. So here also few verses are there. It talks about how one is blessed. Bho Bhuvan, number 12. Bho Bhuvaneshwari Punye Dhanye Devi Dravamayi Munivar Kanye Gangaastotram Mamalam Nityam Pathati Naro Sajayati Satyam. Bho Bhuvaneshwari, Bho Bhuvaneshwari, E Bhuvaneshwari, He Bhuvaneshwari is all addressing goddess. She is Ganga. What happened? Bhuvaneshwari, the Bhuvaneshwari is somebody else. No. Hey Gange, who is Bhuvaneshwari? Gange, who's the goddess of the entire Bhuvanam, who's the goddess of the entire universe. So that's Bhuvaneshwari. It's descriptive here. He says, Punye Dhanye, the one who's Punye. You are Punyam yourself. You give me Punyam. You free me from Papam. And you are yourself in the form of Punyam. You were blessed. You were blessed and you bless me. So she was blessed. So she washed the feet of Vishnu when she manifested. And so she got this Shakti in order to, she got purified, and then she had this Shakti to purify anyone who came in contact with her. So Punye, Dhanye, the one who is blessed, yourself blessed, and you bless everybody else. O Devi, the one who's effulgent, Dravamayi, who's in the form of the waters. Yeah, Devi, Ganga. So who manifests to us in the form of this Ganga Nadi, says. Munivara Kanye, who's Jannavi, the one who is the daughter of sage Jannu, who's Jannavi, says, whoever recites this Gangaastotram Amalam Nityam Patati, the one who recites this Gangaastotram Nityam, regularly, so daily, then what happens? Saha Satyam Jayati. He gains Satyam. He is victorious. Jayati means victorious. You gain victory over what? Over Satyam. Truth. You gain the truth. You gain understanding of the truth. You gain knowledge of the truth about oneself, the truth about the world. the truth about one's connection with Narayana, one's connection with Parameshwara. Yesham hridaye Ganga bhakti tesham bhavati sada sukha mukti madhura kanta panchatika bihi paramananda kalita lalita bihi. Yesham hridaye Ganga bhakti. So the one who has devotion in their heart towards Mother Ganga, tesham sada sukha mukti. That person always finds sukham. It's not a sukham. I find sukham, transient sukham, of course, but also sukham which is so in the form of moksha. That is permanent sukham. Okay. Sukham, temporary sukham comes and goes, and as a result of our actions, as a result of Brahma Vidya, Brahmatma Jnanam, one gains sukham also. And that is the sukham that is abiding, that never goes away, he says. This stotra madhura kanta, it is sweet. It is sweet and pleasing, he says. That is born of joy. Even the recitation of it, it is so joyful. It is born of joy and it gives joy, he says. Such as this stotram. That is in Panjatika is the meter. The stotram which is in this particular meter called as Panjatika. Paramananda Kalita. It is one that gives Ananda. He says it is Lalita. It is beautiful, which is elegant in its composition and which gives tremendous joy. Gangaastotram idam bhavasaram vanchita phaladam vimalam saram Shankara sevaka Shankara rachitam patati sukhistava iti cha samaptaha. So, this bhavasaram, this stotram itself is bhavasaram. It is the essence of the whole universe because of the message. Because of the message that is contained in it. So many messages are there. And it gives vanchita phaladam, vanchita, desired. It fulfills one's desires. And then it is pure. It contains the essential truth. And so it is rachitam. It was Shankara Sevaka, Shankara Rachitam. So the one who is a Shankara Sevaka, it is composed by one who is the devotee of Lord Shankara. And who is he? He is Shankara. His name was also Shankara. The Shankaracharya is attributed to Adi Shankaracharya. This used to be called as Shankara. As a child, mother used to call him Shankara. So the one eti who sukhi patati sukhi, the one who recites this and he gains happiness, he gets happiness. Iti samaptaha. Thus ends this particular stotram. So with this, the stotram ends. Generally at the end of this stotram, they will recite this. Jai Jai Gange Jaya Har Gange Jai Jaya 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 Gange Jaya Har Gange Jai Jai Gange Jaya Har Gange Jaya Jaya Gange Jaya Har Gange. Bole Ganga Maya ki Jai. So this is traditionally this is how it is recited. So yesterday was a great festival day. So Ganga Dashera was there. It is a day that celebrates the descent Ganga. So the descent of Avataranam, descent of Ganga to Manushya Loka. Manushya Loka. So we saw all the stories that are all the different things connected with Mother Ganges, and so this day is a special day, celebrated in a very big way in the north. So where they do prayers for a whole 10 days, this goes on. So they do prayers to Ganges and Ganga. Like, this temple, for example, you go to Thiruvannamalai, there is this Giri. The Giri is the hill, and the Giri is Lord Shiva. Even though there is a temple there, there's a Thiruvannamalai temple is there. But then the Giri itself is because it was Lord Shiva manifest in that form. According to the Sthala Puranam, he manifests in that form. There's something very, very unique and otherworldly about this particular hill. So that is looked upon as Shiva. And so that's why people they go, so they do parikrama around the hill. It is for some, I think 14 kilometers parikrama you go around. So that is the hill. So for Ganga also, Ganga is Devi. Ganga is looked upon as Devi, and she is there permanently. So she is like our this Achala Murti. The Achala Murti in the temple we have this Achala Murti and the Chala Murti. The Achalam is the main deity, the idol, the icon, whatever. Murti is called Achalam. It is fixed. Prana Pratishtha is done. Then there is another Chala Murti. So another Vigraham is there. Then that is taken around and so on. That can be moved. So like that. So Ganga is Achalam there. Ganga is flowing. At the same time, she is Achalam. She is Devi. And on this day, on this special day, they will have this, they will go, like here you take the Utsava Murti around the temple. There also they will have a Utsava Murti of Ganga, and they will take her around the town, around Haridwar, like that they do. So there Ganga is looked upon as Devi. So that's why it's not a place to do laundry, and all the local people and all won't allow it. They get very upset, or they don't allow it. And they don't do. People don't do also. It's only meant to take a dip, really. So like that, it's a very special day. And they float these earthen lamps and flowers and vastram and everything. Regular pujas is done, and they will make all the regular offerings that we do in any puja, upachara puja. So this is Dashahara. It's called Dashahara. It's like the Dashahara of that other Dashahara. Navaratri time also is Dashahara we have. So that is connected to Ravana. 10 is 10-headed, the 10-headed Asura, the Ravana or Rakshasa. So here in Ganga Dashahara, also it is, she removes 10 types of papam. The day is a Dashami day. So that is one thing, one aspect of it. But really speaking, it is said that there are 10 types of papam are described in the tradition. Okay. So she's the one who, so Dasha Papa Hara. She's the one who removes these tenfold papas. There are the Kaikam, Vachikam, and Manasam. These three types of, three categories of papamas there. Kaikam is that physical, action base. So he says, Adattanam upadanam himsam chaiva vidhanataha paradaropaseva cha kaikam trividham spritam. So things, doing actions like, so taking what is not given. Okay, that's another way of saying stealing. So stealing is a papam. So the things like taking things which are not given, and then hurting somebody else physically, and coveting others' possessions, others' relationships. These are all kaikam karma. And then like this, there are vachikam karma also. So three of these are there. And then vachikam is speaking untruth, speaking harsh words towards others, hurting people by by words, slander and so on. And then also talking, undisciplined talking. So that is also considered part of it. Irrelevant and incessant talking and so on. This is all speech related. Okay. And then there is again manasikam. So again, thinking about what others have, greed and so on. And then doing falsehood, having a liking for falsehood, So these kinds of manasika, so kaikam, vachikam, manasikam karmas are there which give papa result. And so these different types of papam that I accumulate, so please help me remove these races. Etani dasha papani haratvam mama jannavi dasha papa hara yasmat tasmat dasha hara smritaha. So it's called Dashahara because it is this Dasha Papa Harati, the one who removes these kinds of papam. So and thus help me mature and grow in my spiritual journey. So it's a very special occasion, and so I'm happy we got a chance to see this and look at it. So with this I'll stop. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.
Dhiraji.
One second.